Hello there and welcome to our nightly news program coming to you live on All 24 News here from Algiers. Coming up next are the headlines. Syrian Foreign Minister describes Algeria's position regarding the crisis in its country as beacon of light in a dark sky and assures All 24 News channel that Damascus is not in a hurry to return to the Arab League before correcting Arab-Arab bilateral relations. Also coming up, Iran and Saudi Arabia to reopen their embassies before the 9th of next May. Renewed clashes between the army and the rapid support forces in Sudan rise the death toll close to 100, and Al-Burhan decides to disband the rapid support forces. Also ahead in our news, a record flow of Algerian gas through pipelines to Europe at 100 million cubic meters per day. The Bank of Algeria announces an increase in exchange reserves to $66 billion and reveals the reopening of the Revenue Control Fund 7 years after its closure. And after Macron's statements, the G7 stresses unity in the face of Beijing and demands Russia to withdraw from Ukraine without any conditions. Hello again and welcome to the program. First off in our news, Syrian Foreign Minister Faisal al-Miqdad described Algeria's position regarding the crisis in Syria as a beacon in a dark sky. Al-Miqdad, in an interview with our channel, considers Syria's return to the Arab League would be something almost impossible without the return of normal inter-Arab bilateral relations. Sarah Farjani reports.
Syria sees Algeria as a beacon of light in the midst of a dark sky. For Algiers' position to Damascus since the beginning of the Syrian crisis remains steadfast in support of legitimacy that defends people's rights and the sovereignty of the state.
موقف الجزائر كان ثابتا.
The position of Algeria was unwavering and was the light in the dark sky of the region.
This message confirms the convergence of the two countries' views on regional and international files, such as the Algerian call for Syria's return to the Arab League and filling a vacant seat, which may further complicate crises, deepen differences, and weaken stances.
تنسيق.
The positions of the two countries, which are similar in many cases, are coordinated. We can say that they are identical positions in many visions, and in the political analysis of the positions of the regional countries and of others.
The summit of Arab reunification in Algiers opened the door for the return of mutual visits between Damascus and Arab capitals as an Algerian objective to end the suspension of Syria's membership and start a new era.
We must thank and appreciate the efforts made by Algeria with regard to placing Syria at the Arab Summit held in Algiers and the sincere efforts made by Algeria in this field. Our primary concern as Arab countries is for our relationship to be normal, clear between each other, and based on a joint action in order to face common challenges.
Syria aims to rearrange its priorities and restore a position that was absent from the years of conflict.
We respond and we do not rely much on propaganda in this regard, but Israel knows that the Syrian response to such attacks is inevitably coming. We'll respond when we want to, at a time that serves us, and not Israel.
From Algeria, Damascus looks towards a future that will end a lifetime of bloody crisis and restore life and peace to the Syrian country and its people.
Iran has officially invited Saudi Arabia's king to visit the country after the two regional rivals agreed to end years of hostility following a China-brokered agreement in March. After years of bad relations, the Shiite revolutionary in Iran and the Sunni-led kingdom reached an agreement to end a 7-year diplomatic rift. Technical delegations from both countries are preparing to officially reopen their missions, and Tehran said these missions would restart their activities by May 9th.
The
Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi has sent an invitation to the Saudi king in return of an invitation by Riyadh for him. The relationship between the Islamic Republic of Iran and Saudi Arabia has its own unique qualities and has no relation to the joint comprehensive plan of action.
More than 100 prisoners of war were flown from Saudi Arabia to Yemen on Monday, further sustaining peace hopes, a day after a major exchange of 869 captives ended. Two International Committee of the Red Cross planes carrying 48 prisoners each flew to Sana'a, Yemen's capital, while a third with 8 captives headed for government-controlled Aden in the south. The release of 104 captives days before the major Muslim festival of Eid al-Fitr takes the total number to 973 freed since Friday.
I was detained in the area of Yaktil in Al-Mukha district in Taiz Governorate. I was imprisoned in an iron factory for 7 years. I feel that today is Eid, the Eid of release and joy, during which I was reunited with my family and the heroes. It's the Eid of victory.
A Palestinian was seriously injured as a result of being shot by the Zionist occupation east of Al-Quds city at the entrance of a settlement in the vicinity of Beit Hanina, after which he was transferred to the hospital. In the same context, the Palestinian Prisoners Club stated that the Zionist forces arrested 4 Palestinians in Hebron, Nablus, and East Al-Quds, and arrested 4 Palestinian fishermen off the coast of the Sea of Rafah in the southern Gaza Strip. The death toll has risen for the third day of clashes in Sudan between the armed forces and the rapid support forces to reach at least 97, while hundreds of others have been injured. International community has called on the two parties to immediately cease fire and return to dialogue to reach an agreement. Usama Ayadi with more.
Clashes in Sudan's capital Khartoum raged for the third day, raising the death toll to more than 90 on Monday, which has sparked broad concern among the international community, with the United Nations, the African Union, the Arab League and other international organizations calling for an immediate ceasefire. The clashes have also left hundreds of civilians wounded, severe humanitarian situation and notable shortages of water and electricity.
People here are suffering of electricity. The electricity went out yesterday for more than 10 hours. People also suffering of water, they're running short of water.
Sudanese Army General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan decided to dissolve the Rapid Support Forces and labeling it an insurgent group. And shortly after an emergency meeting held in Cairo, where representatives of Arab states discussed the ongoing military clashes in Sudan, the Arab League called for an immediate ceasefire and peace negotiations to end the conflict, while Sudan's permanent representative to the Arab League, As-Sadiq Omar Abdullah, stressed that the conflict is an internal affairs matter, rejecting any foreign interference.
We want to stress that efforts made by Arab countries are conducive to stabilizing the Sudan situation. But what is happening in the country is Sudanese internal affairs.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres strongly condemned the outbreak of fighting in Sudan and appealed to the leaders of the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces to immediately cease hostilities, restore calm, and begin a dialogue to resolve the crisis.
I strongly condemn the outbreak of fighting that is taking place in Sudan and appeal to the leaders of the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces to immediately cease hostilities, restore calm, and begin a dialogue to resolve the crisis.
For its part, African Union's Peace and Security Council has released a communique on the situation in Sudan after it convened an emergency session at the AU headquarters in Addis Ababa on Sunday. The communique reiterates the Council's solidarity with the people of Sudan in their quest for the restoration of constitutional order through a civilian-led government and urges both sides to ceasefire and resolve their differences through dialogue. The situation in Sudan has intensified since the early hours of Saturday, and death toll is likely to further rise in the next hours, at a time when the two armed forces continue their hostilities on the war-torn country of Sudan.
The Crown Prince of Kuwait, Sheikh Mish'al Al-Ahmad Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, announced the dissolution of the restored National Assembly by the ruling of the Constitutional Court and the call for general elections in the coming months. In a televised speech on Monday, the Crown Prince of Kuwait justified the decision to return to new elections that prove what he called the will of the people, provided that this coincides with the issuance of a number of political and legal reforms to move the state to a new stage of discipline and legal reference, as he put it.
We have decided to dissolve the 2020 National Assembly, which was reinstated by the Constitutional Court, in line with the Article 107 of the Constitution, and we will call for holding general elections in the coming months. And we would like to point out that the reason for dissolving the National Assembly in 2020 is the victory of the popular will, which requires with it the need to return to it in new elections before the legislative and executive powers, and to ensure the impartiality and integrity of the judiciary by strengthening the governance system in its composition and competencies.
According to data showed by the Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries, Algeria's gas exports to Europe have surpassed 100 million cubic meters per day, exceeding the total exports of Russia, Azerbaijan and Libya. More details with Islam Said.
Algeria strengthens its share and position in the European market as a major energy supplier of the continent. The latest data shows Algeria's predominance in supplying Europe with gas in quantities exceeding 100 million cubic meters per day through its pipeline network, surpassing the exports of Russia, Azerbaijan and Libya combined. Algerian gas flow to Europe have marked a record increase since the start of this year, reinforced by the rise in supplies to Italy, which made the largest African country as the second major gas supplier to Europe, coming right after Norway, whose gas exports reached 275 million cubic meters per day. Since the beginning of the world energy crisis, there has been a reshuffle in the energy market of Europe. Algeria was able, in a short time, to seize the opportunity to be an effective and main source covering a quarter of Europe's orders of natural gas through pipelines, which amounted to 452 million cubic meters per day. According to data, Algerian gas exports to Europe increased by 82% at the end of last year, achieving financial revenues of $20 billion by the end of 2022, compared to $11 billion by the end of 2021. Algerian gas exports to Europe are on a substantial rise, highlighting the pivotal role played by Algeria in ensuring the energy security of the entire continent.
The Bank of Algeria announced an increase in the official foreign exchange reserve, surpassing $66 billion at the end of last March, compared to $60 billion at the end of last December. A statement from the bank revealed the reopening of the revenue fund, which was closed for 7 years, by depositing about $9 billion in its account, due to the significant improvement of the current account of the Treasury of the Bank of Algeria, which recorded at the end of last March a positive balance exceeding $16 billion. To a different story now, the G7 ministers gathered for a second day of meetings in the mountain resort of Karawizawa, Nagano Prefecture on Monday, after earlier highlighting the need for a united front in the Indo-Pacific region and in intensifying and fully enforcing sanctions on Russia as its special operation in Ukraine continues. The report is signed by Sofian Kinturi.
Japan's foreign minister welcomed on Monday his counterparts of the G7 in resort town of Karawizawa to discuss many files including war in Ukraine, China's conflict with Taiwan, and the tension on the Korean Peninsula. Speaking on Russia-Ukraine file, Yoshimasa Hayashi said G7 foreign minister advanced economies agreed Russia must withdraw all troops from Ukraine unconditionally. Meanwhile, the coalition agreed also on keeping a $60 per barrel price cap on seaborne Russian oil, despite raising global crude prices and the calls by some countries for a lower price cap to restrict Moscow's revenues.
In the G7 foreign ministers' meeting this time, we had a candid and detailed exchange of views on the situation in Ukraine. The G7 agreed that Russia must withdraw all troops and equipment from Ukraine immediately and unconditionally, to continue tough sanctions on Russia and to continue strongly supporting Ukraine.
The G7 ministers are keen to demonstrate a unified front, especially after recent comments by French President Emmanuel Macron, which were perceived in some Western capitals as too weak towards China and sparked a backlash.
Furthermore, French Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna has explained to us that France values the current status quo, holds deep feelings for maintaining peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait, is against any changes in the status quo using force, and hopes for a peaceful resolution on cross-strait issues. In addition, she has said President Emmanuel Macron has conveyed this message to President Xi Jinping when he visited China.
Late on Sunday, the first day of a three-day meeting, the ministers also delivered a strong condemnation of nuclear-armed North Korea's spate of recent ballistic missile launches, saying they had been conducted in unprecedented frequency and in unprecedented manners.
Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov arrived in Brazil on Monday on an official visit to hold a meeting on economy and multipolarity. And in a statement, the Russian Foreign Minister said that the visit aims to enhance mutually beneficial cooperation in various fields, in addition to strengthening the international legal foundations of the modern world based on the Charter of the United Nations. The Kremlin said on Monday that the United States has never given up on attempts to spy on Russia after leaked Pentagon documents appeared to show that Washington had collected data on Russian intelligence. In accordance with the leaks, the Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said that Russian special services and the counter-espionage service are carrying out their tasks, while Washington has never given up trying to conduct intelligence activities on Russia. Washington announced on Monday that its warship USS Milius, sailed through the Taiwan Strait in what the U.S. Navy described as a routine transit. The U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet said the destroyer's transit demonstrates the United States' commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. This move comes after China ended its latest military drills around the island. For its part, China announced its extreme readiness and protested the transit on Monday. According to a statement from the Eastern Theater Command spokesperson, the U.S. passage was a public hype and that the Eastern Theater Command was ready at any time to resolutely safeguard the country's sovereignty, safety, and regional peace and stability. The plan to provide Australia with nuclear-powered attack submarines and support to Ukraine's military were on the agenda in a meeting between U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and his British counterpart Ben Wallace on Monday. The United States, Australia, and Britain plan to provide nuclear-powered attack submarines is expected to come into force by the early 2030s to counter China's ambitions in the Indo-Pacific.
Our deep commitment to discuss ways that we can further deepen our partnership. And one of those is AUKUS. It is an historic opportunity that shows how strong we can become when we work together. It shows our deep commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific, and it's a testament to our shared values and to the long-term investments that we're making in our forces.
Since this time with the invasion of Ukraine, we've seen a more anxious world and a more unstable world. And without US leadership, we would be in a worse place. Whether that is in the Pacific, whether that is in Ukraine, whether that is in European defense, or indeed worrying so the development in the Middle East around Iran. That our long-term friendship is also a long-term partnership, and AUKUS is that symbol.
The Pentagon said on Monday its expected findings within 45 days from a review into how the U.S. military handles classified information following last week's arrest of an airman over the week of a trove of highly classified documents online. Pentagon spokesperson Sabrina Singh told reporters that the department is taking this breach seriously and continues to work around the clock to better understand the scope and scale of these leaks.
This is an ongoing investigation being led by the Department of Justice. So we are consulting with them on an ongoing basis, but that investigation will reveal more documents that have been previously posted. And again, we're doing our own internal review assessment. As I said at the top, this is being led by our Intelligence and Security Department to get a better assessment of what documents were disclosed and where they surfaced online.
Protesters gathered in central Paris outside the 10th arrondissement town hall on Monday evening to make noise while French President Emmanuel Macron was delivering a speech on national television. Macron delivered the speech to the nation 2 days after signing into law plans to increase the retirement age by 2 years to 64. During the holy month of Ramadan, conflicts and natural disasters caused a variety of issues, including food insecurity in many Arab countries. This sparked worries about the possibility of familiar and traditional food shortage from households' tables. More with Sofiane Kinturi.
The holy month of Ramadan has been always a great occasion for Muslim worshippers to enjoy gathering over a large iftar table filled with popular and traditional dishes. Fortunately, this is not the case in many Arab countries that are affected by conflicts, climate change, or most recently, natural disasters.
Last Ramadan, we used to eat the best food. We used to eat feta for 6 times. We used to buy chicken with our own money. No one was giving us anything. We used to work to bring money and eat. 6 days have passed this Ramadan, and there is no income, no work, nothing. We can't live in this country. We live in a prison. We are imprisoned here.
In Iraq, the situation is not much different. In a country just marked last month 20 years since U.S. invasion, followed by subsequent violence and war against terrorism.
The price of foodstuff has gone up. Even dolma has become expensive for the simple person who does not have an income, who does not have a salary.
Citizens in Yemen are enjoying a peaceful Ramadan for the first time in 8 years, thanks to a UN-brokered truce deal that lapsed in October but has largely held. But their tables still lack basic food items, following years of conflict and blockade, with the majority of the population living on 1 meal per day.
Inflation and the economic crises that impact the daily lives of people living in areas affected by conflict indeed impact their daily lives and their ability to afford not only certain types of food, but also food in general.
Food insecurity has made many popular Ramadan dishes disappear from food tables across the Arab world. And in more severe cases, it led to threatening people's ability to afford basic food altogether.
Libyans enjoy a variety of activities during Ramadan nights in the old city of Tripoli throughout the month of Ramadan, as they consider it an important sacred period in connection with identity and history. Salman Asib reports.
In the delightful nights of Ramadan, Libyans wander around Tripoli's old city to revive the precious legacy of Libya's heritage and originality. Meanwhile, others enjoy a variety of activities throughout the holy month of Ramadan, from children's shows to Ramadan-themed decorations and historical performances to football. As the old city is known to be busy with citizens frequenting the area every night for entertainment. As for the artist Anwar Til, he says that Ramadan nights bring back to mind great souvenirs from his country's past, including historical performances from different times in which those in the place recall proud periods that form an identity connection that has not disappeared.
These programs take people to the atmosphere of the old city in the past, as if we're living in the past. You're going to see the Janissary army and the rebels walking in their costumes in the old city. You also see costumes from different time periods and historical personalities appearing from balconies, so people get to know them. To be honest, the atmosphere took us back to our history and displayed it in a thoughtful manner. Thank you to the organizers.
In this beautiful old city of Tripoli, where many historical characters and artifacts are introduced, including the festivities, the place gives also a chance for children to get familiar with the country's heritage. Here is Mohammed Misrati, a local resident that tells the history of Libya to his children while enjoying various folkloric performances.
It's really beautiful. We came last Ramadan, but this year it's different. The old city is beautiful and the children are happy with the atmosphere. They are walking around, looking and asking questions. And I'm trying to explain to them. God bless Tripoli and the organizers. Our children should know their country well.
Indeed, many Libyan families consider the old city of Tripoli as an important spot to evoke their country's history while making memories with their families during the holy month of Ramadan amidst antiques and artifacts that bring Libyans together.
The end of our program. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.